You're about to disappear. Not because you're weak, because you're finally learning how power actually works. In the next 12 minutes, I'll show you why the most influential people you know are also the hardest to reach, and why your constant availability is killing your value. This is the Disappearance Protocol. Stop me if this sounds familiar. You answer every message within minutes. You're always available for a quick call. You post daily updates so people don't forget you exist. You explain yourself to everyone who questions you. And despite all this effort, you're being ignored. Here's what's actually happening. You've trained people to treat you like furniture. Always there, never missed. Completely replaceable. The brutal truth? Accessibility is not influence, it's obedience. Machiavelli understood something most people never learn. Power is not in your presence, it's in your absence. Think about it. The president doesn't answer your DMs. The CEO doesn't explain his decisions to everyone. The artist doesn't release music every single day. Scarcity creates value. Always has, always will. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people can't weaponize absence because they're addicted to being seen. Their entire identity depends on constant validation. You're about to break that addiction. Let me paint you a picture. There's a person in your life right now, maybe it's you, who's everywhere, every group chat, every comment section, every social gathering, always posting, always responding, always there. Quick question. When was the last time you thought about them when they weren't actively demanding your attention? Exactly. Now think about someone else. Someone who rarely posts, who takes days to respond, who shows up unexpectedly and leaves just as fast. You think about them constantly, don't you? What are they up to? Why haven't they responded? When will I see them again? That's the difference between noise and presence. The person who's everywhere is background static. The person who's selective is a signal you can't ignore. Your constant visibility isn't making you memorable. It's making you forgettable. Here's what happens in someone's brain when you disappear. Phase 1, confusion. Hours 1 through 24, that's weird. They usually respond immediately. Did something happen? Phase 2, curiosity. Days 1 through 3. Where did they go? What are they doing? Why haven't I heard from them? Phase 3, value recalibration. Days 3 through 7. Maybe I took them for granted. I should reach out. Phase 4, mythology. Week 2 and beyond. They're different now. More focused, more selective, more powerful. You didn't change anything except your availability. But in their mind, you've transformed completely. This is psychological warfare, and you've been losing it by showing all your cards all the time. The Disappearance Protocol has 3 phases. Phase 1, the audit. Look at your last 48 hours. How many times did you respond within 5 minutes? Explain yourself when no one asked. Post something just to stay active. Say yes when you wanted to say no. Every single one of those moments. That's you training people to devalue you. Phase 2, the withdrawal. Pick one person or platform, just one, and go completely silent for 72 hours. No explanation, no. I'm taking a break post, you just vanish. Watch what happens. Some people won't notice. Cut them. Some will panic. They need you more than you thought. Some will wait patiently. Those are your real allies. Phase 3, the return. When you come back, you don't come back the same. You're more selective with your time, more precise with your words, more strategic with your energy. You've shown them what life looks like without you. Now they'll pay attention when you speak. I know what you're thinking. This sounds manipulative. Good. Strategy always looks like manipulation to people who don't understand power dynamics. Let me ask you this. Is it manipulation when a company creates a limited edition product? When a restaurant doesn't take walk-ins? When a surgeon only accepts certain patients? No, that's called having standards. That's called managing demand. That's called not being desperate. You're not ghosting people for fun. You're reclaiming control over the most valuable asset you have, your attention. But what if people forget about me? If your entire value depends on constant reminders, you never had value. You had presence. And presence without power is just noise. The people worth keeping will remember you. The rest were never paying attention anyway. Here's where amateurs mess up. They disappear forever, thinking that's power. Wrong. True influence is rhythmic. It's strategic oscillation between visibility and invisibility. Think of it like this. Thunder doesn't rumble constantly. It strikes, then vanishes. That's why you remember it. Your reappearance must be deliberate. Don't trickle back gradually. Return with impact. Don't apologize for your absence. Act like it was necessary, because it was. Don't resume old patterns. You're operating at a new altitude now. When you come back, you're not rejoining their world. They're entering yours. That shift in frame, that's power. One warning before you start. The Disappearance Protocol will expose who actually values you. Some people will reveal themselves as energy vampires who only kept you around for what you provided. This will hurt. Do it anyway. Better to know now than waste years on people who never saw your worth. The strong survive this filtering process. The weak run back to being everyone's doormat because loneliness scared them. Which one are you? Here's your mission. For the next 72 hours, vanish from one platform or person completely. No warning, no explanation, just silence. Then watch. Watch who notices. Watch who reaches out. Watch who doesn't. You're about to learn more about your actual influence in 3 days than you have in the last 3 years. And if you want more protocols like this, strategies that actually work in the real world of power dynamics, subscribe to Machiavelli Protocol. I don't post every day. I'm not here to fill your feed with noise, but when I speak, you'll listen. One last thing. The moment you stop being available to everyone is the moment you become valuable to the right ones. Disappear strategically, return powerfully, and watch how quickly the world rearranges itself around you. This is the Machiavelli Protocol. Now vanish. Let me take you deeper into why this works. Most people operate under a fundamental misunderstanding about human psychology. They believe that the more they give, the more they'll be valued. The more they show up, the more they'll be remembered. The more they explain, the more they'll be understood. Every single one of these beliefs is wrong, and it's costing you everything. Human beings don't value what's always available. We're wired for scarcity. Our ancestors survived because they could identify what was rare and fought to secure it. Food that was scarce became precious. Water that was limited became sacred. People who were selective with their time became leaders. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. Your brain is still running that same software, and so is everyone else's. When you make yourself constantly available, you trigger a psychological mechanism called habituation. It's the same reason you stop noticing the hum of your refrigerator after a few minutes. Your brain filters out constant stimuli to conserve energy. You become background noise, invisible, forgotten, even when you're standing right there. The cruelest irony? The harder you try to be remembered, the faster you're forgotten. Now let's talk about what happens when you remove yourself. When you vanish without warning, you create a void, and nature abhors a void. People's minds rush to fill that empty space. They start constructing narratives. They begin asking questions. They replay your last interaction looking for clues. You've become a mystery, and mysteries demand to be solved. This is why people obsess over those who are hard to reach. It's not because they're better than you. It's because their absence triggers a hunting instinct in the human brain. Think about the last time someone suddenly stopped responding to you. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was someone you were dating. Maybe it was a business contact. You probably checked your phone more than usual, wondered if you said something wrong, replayed conversations in your head. That anxiety, that's the feeling of losing access, and it's incredibly powerful. When you vanish, you're not being cruel. You're creating that same tension in others. You're making them feel your absence as weight. Here's what most people get wrong about relationships, business, and influence. They think connection is about proximity, about being close, about being available. But real connection is about tension, about push and pull, about the space between presence and absence. A rubber band has no tension when it's slack. It only becomes powerful when you stretch it. Human relationships work the same way. No distance means no tension. No tension means no value. I want you to consider something uncomfortable. Every person in your life right now has a mental ranking of you. They might not consciously think about it, but it exists. And that ranking is determined by one thing: how much you've taught them to expect from you. If you always respond immediately, they rank you as always available. If you always say yes, they rank you as someone who can't say no. If you always explain yourself, they rank you as someone who needs their approval. You've been training people to disrespect you, and you did it by trying to be liked. The people who command respect, who generate influence, who control social dynamics, they understand something fundamental. Respect is not given freely. It's extracted through boundaries. Every time you fail to set a boundary, you lose respect. Every time you're available when you should be scarce, you lose value. Every time you explain when you should be silent, you lose authority. This isn't about being cold. It's about being strategic. Let me show you how this plays out in real scenarios. Imagine you're in a business negotiation. Person A responds to every email within an hour, picks up every phone call, makes themselves available for meetings whenever the other party wants. Person B takes 2 days to respond, screens their calls, only takes meetings on their own schedule. Who do you think has more negotiating power? Who do you think gets better terms? Person B, every single time. Not because they're more talented, because they've communicated through their behavior that their time is valuable, and the other party believes it. Same principle applies to personal relationships. Think about someone you know who's always single, always chasing, always trying to prove their worth to potential partners. Now think about someone who's selective, who takes their time, who doesn't rearrange their entire life for someone they just met. Who has more romantic success? Who gets pursued instead of pursuing? The person who understands that absence creates desire, that mystery creates attraction, that scarcity creates value. This extends to social media. The person who posts 15 times a day versus the person who posts once a week with something meaningful. Who has more engaged followers? Who gets more genuine interaction? The scarce poster, always. Because when they finally share something, people pay attention. They haven't been trained to scroll past. The constant poster has taught their audience to ignore them. Now I need you to understand the mechanism behind why withdrawal works. It's not just about creating mystery. It's about forcing a value reassessment. When someone has constant access to you, they develop a baseline. That baseline becomes their expectation. They stop appreciating what you bring because it's always there. But when you remove access, that baseline disappears. Suddenly they're forced to remember what it was like having you around. They're forced to compare the before and after. And in that comparison, your value skyrockets. This is the same principle that makes people appreciate things only after they're gone. The same reason people don't value their health until they're sick. The same reason employees don't appreciate their job until they're unemployed. Presence blinds us to value. Absence reveals it. You need to engineer this dynamic deliberately. You need to create controlled absence so people can see what they're taking for granted. Here's the tactical breakdown of how to implement this. First, identify your areas of overexposure. Where are you too available? Who gets too much of your time? What platforms drain your energy without return? Make a list. Be honest. Second, choose one area to withdraw from completely, not partially, completely. If it's a person, you don't respond for a week. If it's a platform, you don't post or engage. If it's a type of request, you start saying no without explanation. Third, observe. Don't announce your withdrawal. Don't tell people you're doing an experiment. Just vanish. And watch carefully what happens. Some people will immediately notice. These are the people who are actually paying attention. They valued your presence. They'll reach out. They'll check in. They'll show concern. Note these people. They're your real network. Some people won't notice for days, maybe weeks. When they finally do, they'll make it about themselves. Why didn't you tell me? I thought we were close. These are the people who valued the idea of having access to you, but never actually used it meaningfully. They're collecting people, not building relationships. Limit your energy here. Some people will never notice. They were never paying attention in the first place. You were giving energy to people who didn't even register your existence. Cut them completely. This filtering process is painful but necessary. You've been spreading yourself too thin, giving equal energy to everyone, treating all connections as equally valuable. They're not. Most people in your life are neutral or negative value. They take more than they give. They demand more than they deserve. And you've been allowing it because you're afraid of being alone. But here's what you need to understand. Being alone is better than being drained. Solitude is better than fake connection. An empty social circle is better than one filled with people who don't value you. Now let's talk about the return. How you come back is just as important as how you leave. Most people make a critical mistake. They apologize, they over-explain, they try to smooth things over and return to the old dynamic. This destroys everything you built during your absence. When you return different. You don't apologize for taking time. You don't explain where you were or what you were doing. You simply re-engage on your terms, shorter responses, longer gaps between availability. More selective about who gets your time. You've reset the baseline, now you maintain the new standard. Some people will test you. They'll make passive-aggressive comments, they'll try to guilt you back into old patterns. They'll say you've changed, and they won't mean it as a compliment. Good. You have changed. You've stopped being a doormat. Let them be uncomfortable with that. Their discomfort is proof that you were giving too much before. If they can't adapt to you having boundaries, they don't deserve access to you at all. Others will adapt quickly. They'll respect the new dynamic. They'll value the time they do get with you because it's no longer unlimited. These relationships will deepen, they'll become more meaningful, because now there's actual reciprocity. Now there's balance. This is what real connection looks like. Not constant availability, but mutual respect for boundaries. Here's something nobody tells you about influence. The people with the most influence are also the most protected. They have layers between them and the world. Assistants who screen their time, publicists who manage their image, boundaries that keep energy vampires at bay. They're not more talented than you. They're not more deserving than you. They're just better at controlling access. And you can do the same thing, even without assistance. Your boundary is your unavailability. Your screening process is your selective response. Your protection is your strategic absence. Let me tell you what happens after you've successfully implemented the Disappearance Protocol for a few months. People start treating you differently. They think twice before reaching out. They make sure their request is worthwhile. They respect your time because you've shown them it's limited. They value your input because you don't give it freely. They remember your words because you don't waste them on noise. You've completely changed the power dynamic. Not by being better, but by being scarce. Your professional life transforms. Opportunities start finding you instead of you chasing them, because you're not desperate, because you're not always available, because you've communicated through your behavior that your time is valuable. Clients pay more, employers offer better positions, collaborators bring better terms. All because you stopped being accessible to everyone. Your personal life transforms. You stop attracting people who want to use you. You start attracting people who want to match your energy. Your relationships become more balanced, more reciprocal, more fulfilling. Because you're no longer the person who gives everything and receives nothing. You're the person who knows their worth and demands others recognize it too. Your mental state transforms. You stop feeling drained, stop feeling resentful, stop feeling taken for granted. Because you're not giving to people who don't appreciate it. You're not wasting energy on relationships that don't reciprocate. You're not spreading yourself so thin that there's nothing left for yourself. You've reclaimed your power, and it shows in everything you do. But here's the warning I need to give you. This process will change you fundamentally. Once you see how people respond to your absence, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how scarcity creates value, you can't go back to being freely available. Once you experience the power of strategic withdrawal, old patterns will feel like slavery. You're about to cross a threshold. On one side, you're the person everyone takes for granted. On the other side, you're the person people work to deserve access to. Most people never cross this threshold. They're too afraid of losing people, too afraid of being alone, too afraid of being called selfish or cold or distant. They'd rather be used than be alone. But you're different. You're watching this because something in you knows there's another way. Something in you is tired of being taken for granted. Something in you is ready to reclaim your power. That something is your instinct for survival, for self-preservation, for dominance in a world that rewards the strategic, not the generous. Listen to it. The path forward is clear. Start with 72 hours, one platform, one person, one area of overexposure. Vanish completely. No warning, no explanation, no apology, just absence, then observe. Watch who notices, Watch who reaches out, watch who doesn't care. This will tell you everything you need to know about your real influence, your real relationships, your real worth in other people's eyes. And when you return different. Return with boundaries, return with standards, return with the understanding that your time, your energy, your presence, these are the most valuable things you possess, and you will no longer give them freely to people who don't value them. This is the Disappearance Protocol. Not a trick, not a game, a fundamental restructuring of how you engage with the world. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming strategic. You're not becoming distant, you're becoming valuable. You're not becoming cruel, you're becoming powerful. The world doesn't reward the generous, it rewards the scarce. The world doesn't remember the always available, it remembers the selectively present. The world doesn't respect the explainer, it respects the silent. You've been playing by the wrong rules, trying to win a game where the most giving person loses, where the most available person gets used, where the most open person gets taken advantage of. That game is over. You're playing a different game now. One where absence is strength, where silence is power, where withdrawal is strategy, and in this game, you win. Start today. Identify one area of overexposure. Vanish from it completely. Let the absence do the work. Let people feel what it's like without you. Let them realize what they were taking for granted. And when they do, when they finally reach out, when they finally show that they value you, don't rush back. Make them wait. Make them prove they deserve access to you again. Because you're not the person you were before. You're the person who understands power, who understands influence, who understands that in a world of constant noise, silence is the loudest statement you can make. This is Machiavelli Protocol, where we don't teach you to be nice, we teach you to win. Subscribe if you want more strategies that actually work, that actually change power dynamics, that actually put you in control. I don't post every day, I don't flood your feed with content, because I practice what I teach. When I speak, you listen, because I'm not always speaking. That's the difference between influence and noise. Now go, disappear, and watch what happens when you finally stop being everyone's option and start being someone's priority. The Disappearance Protocol starts now.